Hola, ¿cómo están? Hey guys, what's up? It's Stephanie. I am back today with a new video for you guys. And the video today is going to be talking about interviews for PA schools. So with the CASPA application opening up, most of you may have already submitted your application or are in the process of submitting your application. So the next thing is to get an interview. And I know when I had an interview last year, I was Googling and YouTubing to see how I could prepare myself for the interview. So if you're interested, keep watching. In the video today, I'm going to be talking about tips and my experience interviewing, also what I use to prepare myself for the interview. So if you're interested, keep watching and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. Alright guys, so interviews may be coming hopefully soon. I know for me, I applied last year towards the beginning of August, and I started getting interviews in the month of October all the way up to January. I was accepted to a school in December, so then after that I started deferring the interviews that I got. So it might take a few weeks, a few months for you to get an interview, but don't feel anxious because it's gonna come. So just be patient and it'll come. During that time, you can start preparing, looking up for questions. That's what I did. So what I used to prepare myself for the PA interview, which is something I really recommend, is this book called How to Ace a Physician Assistant School Interview. So I read this from front to back. It was literally like a Bible to me because I referred to it for everything, and I really recommend this book. I actually got it on Amazon. I think I paid $25, 20 or 25, I don't remember. I bought it about 2 years ago. The first time I applied, I used it. I didn't finish reading it, but the second time I read it over and over again, and it's a fantastic book, and I recommend everybody who is wanting to become a physician assistant and is going to have an interview for PA school to get this book, because it's a great book. So the individual who wrote this is a former PA who sits on the admissions committee of Yale University. So he has a lot of experience interviewing students, and I like this book because it basically gives you the different forms that PA school interviews have. So for example, traditional questions, behavioral questions, and you also get ethical questions, which are questions that I was asked in the interviews that I went to for PA school. So I really recommend this book. What I did is that I read it all, and then within this book it asks you a specific question, and then within that question it'll give you 3 answers, and it'll give you basically the best answer, the mediocre answer, and then the weakest answer. So you can read each question and it'll give you the 3 answers, which is, I thought it was great. So what I did is I went through every question and I basically wrote my answer, trying to mimic the best answer that the PA in this book suggested. So I know I wrote it, I grabbed a journal and I had several pages almost full with just each question that I thought they were going to ask, and basically an answer of what I thought was the best answer for me. So I really recommend this book for you guys. It's called, once again, How to Ace a Physician Assistant School Interview, and it's something that really helped me during my interviews. I mean, I already get really nervous, especially when it comes to interviews. I'm really bad at speaking to others. I'm really shy. Interestingly though, I'm starting this YouTube channel for you guys so it can help you guys. So for me, it was nerve-wracking having to go to an interview. So that's why I tried to prepare myself as much as I could. In regards to preparing, once I had already written the questions that I thought that were going to be asked from this book, and basically the answers, how I would answer them from my personal experience, I started practicing with family members. I would practice with my husband, who would ask me questions. my husband's aunt, who is a nurse. She was great to practice with because she has a very her demeanor is she is very straightforward, and she has this demeanor that's kind of intimidated sometimes. So I think it was great practicing with her because when she looked at me, she would give me this straight look, and it made me nervous. So I think it was great practicing with her because I had several interviewees that had the same demeanor as she did. So I think it was fantastic. So I did practice for a few weeks over and over again. And when my husband wasn't available, or when she wasn't available, I would just go and practice in front of the mirror, ask the questions to myself over and over again until I got the correct answer. And some of the interviews that I had were within local Texas, so I would drive down. For example, one of the interviews that I had was about 6 hours away from my home. So during those 6 hours, I just remember that I was repeating the questions over and over again and just answering them over and over again so they can get instilled in my mind. When I did get to the interview, I remember I was so nervous that I completely forgot the answers to the questions. But during the interview, they started slowly coming back, and I think that's what really made me feel prepared for the interviews. So that is basically my experience. Once again, I used this book, which I highly recommend for you guys. Another thing that I did do is that last year for my job that I worked, I would drive about 30 minutes. I used to live in the city of San Antonio, so San Antonio is a large city, has a lot of traffic. So I used that time to listen to podcasts. You can find podcasts online of individuals who sit on the admissions committee board, PAs, and I really like these podcasts because the specific one of the PAs would ask a question, and once again he would give an answer that he would be looking for. He would also talk about his experience interviewing other students and what he disliked about a certain interview or what he liked about a certain interview. So I also listen to these podcasts just to know what admission committees are looking for and what they're not looking for. So this really helped me out. So the podcast I recommend, the first one is Inside PA Training. It's by Paul Kubin. Last name is Qubin. He's a great podcaster. He also has some books that he wrote. I actually haven't read his books. I just listened to his podcast. But he also gives some great feedback on interviews. And also, once again, he gave an example of an ethical question that someone would ask and how he would answer it and why he would answer it a certain way. So this was a great podcast that I like, that I listened to on my way to work, on my way back, and I think it's also something that really helped me. It also helped me understand a little bit more about the PA profession, and he also goes into depth about the PA profession because that's one of the questions that they are going to ask you, is to know what the PA profession is, what it entitles, etc. So I think Paul Kubin did a good job talking about what the PA profession is, what is the difference between a PA, a physician, and a nurse practitioner, etc. So it's one of the podcasts I recommend if you enjoy listening to podcasts. So another one that I recommend is the Physician Assistant in Education, also known as PAINE, so PAINE. It's another podcast that I really like listening to. It's another PA who sits on the committee of, I don't remember the school, but he sits in the admissions committee also, and he also gives his experience of students that he interviewed, negative experience that he had, positive experience. He also gives you tips on how to excel in your PA school interview. So this is another podcast that I listened to, and it also really helped me. I'll put the links below. I have an Apple phone and iPhone. I'm not sure if they're available for Android. I see why not, but if you do have an iPhone, these are great podcasts that I listen to. I love listening to podcasts, especially when I'm driving or working out or anything else. So I really recommend these podcasts to prepare you for the PA school interview. So in a nutshell, in my experience, what I did, once again, is that I used this book, which again, I really recommend. It's a fantastic book. It's about $25. It gives you a lot of information about the school interview, what the admissions committee are looking for, the types of questions they're going to ask you, and the answers they're looking for. And it gives you examples of the answers they're looking for. He also does a good job of informing you what to wear for the school interview, and also talks about, basically the first few pages talks about what the PA profession is, the history of the PA profession. So it's a fantastic book. I really recommend you guys this book. Another thing that I do recommend is a podcast. Like I said, the ones that I listed. If you drive a lot, if you live in a busy city like I did, instead of listening to music or etc. radio, I would listen to podcasts that would help me prepare myself for the interview. So I really recommend those podcasts. That's what I did. Another thing that I did is I also practiced as much as I could, whether it was with my husband, how I sat. I wanted to make sure I was sitting properly. I had proper posture, the way I placed my hands on the table, whether I was interviewing on a table. I did have a table interview in one of my interviews. I'll talk about later. And just my posture, my hand gestures, my movements, my facial movements, etc. So he was able to give me feedback on that. I also practiced with his aunt, who was a prior nurse, and I liked practicing with her because she has a very scary demeanor. And I think this was really good because majority of the individuals who did interview me had this composure or a poker face that I didn't know whether the question they asked me, whether I answered it the way they wanted it to be answered or not, because they just literally had this poker face. So I think it was really good interviewing with her because she had a poker face the entire time. So it intimidated me, but it was also really good because it prepared me for the interviews. And then I just practiced over and over again in the mirror as much as I could. I remember I practiced for like at least an hour. The day before my interview, almost every day. And then on my way to my interview, driving, I practiced also. And on one of the other second interviews when I was with my husband, me and him were just practicing back and forth. He would ask me the questions and then I would answer them. So I practiced as much as I could because it was something that I really wanted. So this is just my tips for you guys. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, I have my email. I'm going to list my email below. Just feel free to shoot me an email. I know some of you guys have been sending me in your personal statements. I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. I've just been really busy. Sorry, guys. And also, if you don't want to send me an email, I have my Instagram account. So if it's easier for you to send me a message through there, just follow me on Instagram and then I'll respond as soon as I can, guys. So thanks for watching my videos, and thank you so much also for really nice comments that most of you have left below in the comment section of my videos. It keeps me motivated and it keeps me want to keep making these videos for you guys because I was in your shoes last year and the year before, and I know how anxious it is and how sometimes you just want to give up, but don't give up. Just stay motivated, keep applying. It just takes one acceptance, like everybody says, just takes one. So I'll be making more videos basically about the different types of interviews that there are, since there are a different type of interviews, traditional, multiple mini interviews, etc. So I'll be making videos about that, my experience also in those interviews. And alright guys, well, good luck and I'll talk to you guys later.